Hello, so as I start to the set, basically what I do daily is I do VOD reviews on this channel. If you're here from like my intro guide or some of my other guides from PB, we're now in the live patches of the set launch, right? So basically what I'm going to be playing here is Black Rose. I tried to pick like my most high roll, most fun version of the Black Rose game that I had so far in rank. So this is going to be one where I hit 7 Black Rose. Now, if you don't know, Black Rose is like the summon trait. If you look at any of the Black Rose units, you'll notice that they're like exceptionally strong. Mainly this Elise unit. I kind of said at the beginning, like when I was predicting like what's going to be strong, it was very obvious that like all the form swappers and especially Elise was like very overtuned in my opinion. Elise does massive damage in backline, really good damage in frontline, and then all the other Black Rose units and the trait with the Sion is just like a mess. If you look at like top comps performing right now, you'll see that Black Rose is like averaging in the 3s. Right? And then, you know, for me at least, I like the Dominator version. This is the one that I usually play. I really like to play around Dominators. I love Mundo. I think he's really cool and a really good tank as a one-off. I feel like you can get a lot done with him. Silco's really like mid. He's pretty bad right now. But this allows you to play towards Cassio 3. So a lot of times I angle myself towards Dominators anyways. And that's like kind of what I do. Black Rose, basically the way that you play Black Rose, you know, what you'll see here is you basically just click all the Black Rose units and then you win the game. Basically, if you read Black Rose's trait, there's two parts of it that are really broken. Number one, it's a summon trait that gives you like a giant Sion. The Sion is really massive. As soon as you hit 4 Black Rose, the Sion gets stronger, and then the enemies basically like you take like what's it called? Enemies take bonus damage from Black Rose units. So a lot of times, Sion works as like a really good frontline unit. And it gives you the flexibility to put Elise in the back line, which then does a bunch of damage. And there's lots of variations around this because basically you just play something that synergizes with these units and you're probably going to gain LP. So a lot of times people play Heimerdinger, and you play Heimer in the back line, then you can play like some other frontline units, or you just play vertical Dominators. Now, I like the Dominator version. That's the one that I play because I feel like you don't have to worry too much about your Black Rose units that are super contested. Not many people play around Mundo and Silco right now. For what they are, I think a Mundo is a really good tank. So I really like to play around Mundo Silco, and then I'll dual carry between Silco and Cassiopeia. And then usually I'll just play Vertical Dominator with Black Rose. This board fits in really nicely on level 8. And then on level 9, you can basically just pivot into playing 6 Dominator and 4 Black Rose, or you can keep 5 Black Rose, 4 Dominator, and put some extra synergies in. But basically, because Mundo is pretty, like, uncontested, you can play around Mundo with Silco. People usually don't buy them because, you know, people consider Silco to be really bad, and Mundo, I think he's really good. But it's also, like, really good with anomalies. And then you could always just, like, stay stuck on 8 and roll for Cassio 3, or you can put Elise in the front line or the back line. You can also fit in Scrap really easily with these type of boards because you can basically just play, what's it called? Like, a lot of times my mid-game board will look something like this, where I'll have a Ziggs with a Trundle, right? And then I still have the Dominators, and then I have an extra little Bruiser to juice out my Mundo and my front line a little bit. But anyways, without much ado, this board's really flexible. There's lots of things you can play. You can play Garen around Watchers, Elise with Bruisers, Mundo. It just gives you more options for front line if you like kind of commit yourselves towards like the 4 Dominator variations of these. But anyways, I digress. We're going to watch this game. So this game is going to end up just being a Black Rose game. The first Augment I took is a Dominator Augment that gave me a Cassiopeia. I basically lost streaked for much of the early stage of the game just to try and build up a nice bank of econ. And now we're just going to go through it. So these are like the VOD reviews in the traditional sense of how I normally do them. I just wanted to give the little intro to Black Rose because it is the first VOD review of the new set. Typically, I'll just show stage 2. I'll talk about my decisions along the way, and then we'll go through everything as like a learning resource for everyone. I did like the little one-off edited video. It didn't do too well according to the YouTube stats. It's like one of the worst performing videos, the little intro guide that I did, even though I put a lot of effort into it. So I'll try my best to do more of those for the people that like them. But yeah, it might be a sometimes food if for the amount of work I did, I got way less results. So you know, it is what it is. Let's go through this now. I'm gonna take out the pen because it's time. All right, perfect. So anyways, time to VOD review. But like I said, this one's going to be a little fun one. So, you know, if you just want to learn and see some of the units, I'll try and talk about them. It'll be very introductory. But, you know, it's mostly just going to be like, hey, this is a really silly high roll game, and it's going to be pretty fun. So anyways, let's just look through it. I find that this Sated Spellweavers, it doesn't seem that good to me. I don't know who it's for. It feels more like a frontline-ish trait, if anything, so I don't really care too much about it. All that shimmers gives gold generation, but I don't think any of the Dominators really like any of those particular items. So if I'm looking at the items here, I'd rather just take slamming. The way slamming works is that, or we'll see exactly what I end up taking, but slamming is really good. Trifecta would have been good if you play Cassio reroll. You can reroll Cassio Blitzcrank, and then you can play it as like a 3-cost reroll as well. This Cassiopeia unit is very, very strong, by the way. She's like, I feel like she's as strong as a 4-cost, but a lot of the power is tied to Black Rose, so that's like a whole separate issue. But as you can see, this is like my mid-game board. So I'm level 6, I have a Cassio 1, I'm putting full items on Cassio, and then I took slamming. So the way slamming works is that if you have no components on your item bench, which is over here now, on the left-hand side, if you have no components there, you'll gain 2 XP per round. Now, for me at least, I know that I'm going to be playing a level, like a board that is going to be level 8 that I want to roll on, because I want to roll for 4 costs, either Elise, Silco, Mundo, Garen. Like there's so many of them, right, that I can play around this Black Rose board, but I want to make it to level 8 and eventually make it to level 9. So the only downside of slamming is that you have to decide on making components, but for me at least, I don't really see that as a problem. There's really no downside because I just slammed everything anyways, who cares. And the leftover components I just put on other units. That's what you can do with slamming, just so they're not on the item bench. And it works out to be like an econ augment. It does level you up, but it works the same way, because basically you can think of it as it giving you 2 gold per round, right? If you're getting 2 XP per round, it's basically giving you 2 gold per round. And that's just to help me make it to level 8 so that I can roll for all the other Black Rose units. Anyways, this is the Sion. He gets summoned in the middle of the board. I'm sure you've seen it. And then he's like Giga Strong, and then he breaks out eventually and then does a bunch of damage. So we'll see how things work out anyways. Hopefully people are enjoying the set so far. I've been getting really frustrated because I've been making a lot of mistakes, but I think it's just because I haven't been playing a lot of TFT in recent. I took like, you know, towards the end of set 12, I kind of stopped playing. So I feel like there's so many times where it's just like, you know, I'm taking too long to make decisions. I don't know if that's the same with other people. If you come back to TFT and you have a little bit of like, you know, like your brain doesn't work properly. But I think that this set is like exercising that muscle of playing flexibly that I didn't have to exercise all that much in set 12. So I am having a lot of fun. Like so far, like I really like this patch. Besides like besides a couple things like this Black Rose comp being very, very strong and everybody kind of angling towards it and top 4ing. Like besides that, it's like it's pretty fun. It's pretty good. So I definitely recommend giving it a try if you haven't been playing already, because it is really well done. It's just that you know, there's just a couple outliers is what I would say. Yeah, so anyways, we started with Spark Slam. I have Watchers in. Watchers is a really good basic frontline trait. I have the Rennie in just because I just want to put in an extra unit, so I just put a high cost unit that should help tank. And I'm just gonna chill here for a little bit until I can safely make it to level 7 and then level 8 eventually, and then that's where the game's gonna start really for me. This Cassio does do an insane amount of damage. The way Dominators works, by the way, is Dominators get a shield, and then they gain stacking AP based on the mana that they spent. So you really want your Dominators to cast a bunch, and then once they cast a bunch, they'll gain AP. So the comp works by stalling as much as possible. It works really well with Black Rose, not just because Black Rose is really strong, but because you have the extra Sion. It does give you like more frontline that helps your units stall to cap out really high. Cassio is nothing to be slept at, by the way. Like Cassio 2 does as much damage as a lot of 4 costs, especially if you hit like 5 Black Rose. So you should definitely always consider holding on to Cassiopeias and playing around it as much as you can. Even if you're playing just like vertical Black Rose, a lot of people get stuck on like, you know, putting items on Elise, for example, to use Elise as a backline unit, or putting items on a Heimerdinger or whatever. Like putting items on Cassio is actually really, really good, especially if you have a Cassio 2, especially if you don't have that much money that you're like in a spot where you're broke or something. The augment that I have, it doesn't seem that good, but I feel like pretty comfortable around Dominators. But the augment that I took, it basically just gives Dominators a little bit of attack speed, and every time a Dominator gets a kill, everybody gets a shield. That's basically how it works. So it's very good for stalling. It's very good for like the Dominator trait in general. Now, I'm a big Dominator believer. I think Silco is a little bit weak, but for how uncontested he is, you know, like I think like, you know, some people make like, how do I phrase it? Some people say like very like certainly like a Silco 2 is trash and they'd rather just contest Heimer or contest like another AP unit, I feel like Silco 2 is surprisingly good so long as you just have like anti-heal and like good items on him, because he does like mostly like AoE. So a lot of his damage, like if you put like Morello on him, I feel like he's fine. But you know, that's just me. It's hard to see the stats on Silco, by the way, because he's tied to Chem Baron. So something you should always note is that a lot of the Chem Baron units are gonna look worse in the stats. I don't have advanced stats to like do exclusions and stuff like that, but a lot of times the units do worse because they're like tied to like a loss trait, which is very hard to play sometimes. So like Chem Baron players might just go instant 8th, right? It's very 1st or 8th. So a lot of times those units have like a lower average because it's like someone who just didn't like properly cash out. So we'll see how it pans out in the future. But the way I look at it is that, like, you know, if you have the opportunity to get an upgraded Mundo and an upgraded Silco for free, I'd rather play around Mundo and Silco than like try and play towards like Elise carry, Heimer carry, 5 cost that I don't have money for. It just feels like very like I'd rather, like, I can always pivot off the Silco into Heimer later. It's just like, you know, it just feels like, you know, if it's super contested, it's just gonna turn into a shit show. So I'd rather just play the uncontested units. That's just like me as a player type of thing. So of course, like when I'm talking about these units, I don't want people to look at this and say Silco's broken. It's obviously very close to like Black Rose. I think Mundo is very good. I think Mundo's a great tank. I think anomalies work really well on Mundo because he scales off HP, and because he has so much HP, you can also get armor anomaly. So basically any frontline anomaly works out amazingly on Mundo, as opposed to like some of the Sentinels where it's like it feels like diminishing returns if you just give them more armor or give them more MR. So it's just a little bit, he seems really fun to play around is what I would say. This was just unfortunate. Powder 3 just barely got the monkey to kill me, so it is what it is. Also, yeah, that's Powder, by the way, if you're an Arcane fan, if you watch Arcane a lot. So here's the last augment. So now I'm going to set up for my roll down. So it's going to be like, I'm going to level to 8 here. I'm going to roll as much as possible. I can take a support item. I think I'm just going to roll it. Let's see what I end up taking. Little Buddies. I think Little Buddies is good because I'm going to be playing. Okay, I hit Black Rose Emblem. Okay, so this is where it starts. So Black Rose Emblem, one of the best augments you can hit just because it gives you the 5 Black Rose for free. Normally you need LeBlanc to get there, but it's fine. So here, as you can see, I buy the Silco. I'm going to try and fit in 4 Dominator. And then I have the Black Rose Emblem. Now, Black Rose units do extra damage when you have 5 Black Rose. So I should put the items on Silco. And Black Rose Emblem on Silco, and it will be really, really strong. Here I put in Gangplank to get Form Swapper. I have Elise as a frontline unit instead of a backline unit here, just because I don't have any upgraded frontline units. Right, as soon as I get like a Dr. Mundo, I will definitely put Dr. Mundo in. As you can see, I'm holding on to all the Cassiopeias that I see. Not necessarily to grief other Black Rose players. It's more so that with Cassio 3, it works as a really strong carry. With Gangplank, you also, because Gangplank is Form Swapper, which gives durability to the Elise for the front line, and he also is Scrap, which you can pair up with the Ziggs that gives you the transform component from the bow to something random. But here I'm still gonna roll a little bit because I'm not sure if I'm gonna roll this round. I might think that I'm stable, but if I lose a round, I'm probably gonna roll pretty aggressively. Here I'm just gonna save my remover. As you can see, my Silco with no items was doing more damage than my Ziggs with items. That's what I was saying before. Silco just does a good amount of damage with 4 Dominator, especially if you have Black Rose that can help you stall. So I'm just gonna roll. I have this guy here, right? I found a Mundo, so I can put in Mundo over somebody. And yeah, you want to roll pretty aggressively in these first couple rounds. On 4-6, there's the anomaly, which is the main set mechanic. The anomaly is gonna power up one of your units, basically. There's a couple anomalies that are very good. Normally, I use an anomaly on Mundo in this case. If you're playing vertical dominators, using it on Mundo is very, very strong because like I said before, Mundo can take a lot of the anomalies really, really well, There's anomalies that give him a bunch of armor, which is really nice because he has a huge amount of HP. And then even if you're stuck with an anomaly that gives you a bunch of HP, it doesn't feel like diminishing returns because his healing and all of his abilities scale off his HP. So it still feels like it's not that much of diminishing returns. It seems pretty good. Similar to how Alawi scales off of armor, a lot of times it feels good to have that extra bit on her. There is a Mundo on Carousel. Nobody's going to take it because, like, who the fuck cares about this Mundo unit? I've seen some people play Vertical Experiment, and sometimes if you're doing, like, a Chem Baron cash out, people will, like, buy Mundo. We'll see how it works out in this game, but I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty confident in Mundo as a frontline unit. For how uncontested he is what I'm trying to say, right? The whole point of this is that I'm playing one of the stronger traits, but I'm not relying on hitting them for damage, right? Like here, maybe Elise 1 is better than Silco 1 in terms of damage if I put those items on him, but I'm not too worried about that, right? It's like I'm just going to play whatever units I hit, and it'll be fine. I found a LeBlanc as well. It's a pretty high roll. This whole game is very high roll, by the way, just in terms of how things worked out. But I want to make sure that I have all my units in now. This is the main thing. Right after this round, you want to make sure you have all your units in, because basically whatever units you have here, one of them will get upgraded with the anomaly. But this is where things are going to go crazy. Something that you'll see here is one of the anomalies that is just like giga broken. So we'll see. This guy's playing Scrap. Scrap is also another very top tier trait that is very, very strong right now in the current patch. But as you can see, I'm Mundo paired, I'm Silco paired, I'm Elise paired, and I'm 2 off of Cassio. That's why I'm rolling so aggressively. Because, you know, if I hit Silco 2 or Mundo 2, it might change which one I want to prioritize the anomaly on. Normally, if you hit an upgrade, I would put the anomaly on the upgraded unit so you don't run into a situation where you just never hit the upgrade and then you just sit there with your anomaly wasted on a 1-star unit. So because I'm paired on multiple units, that's why I'm rolling so deep. But I would typically recommend that you roll until you have at least one copy of a frontline unit and a backline unit that you're looking to, upgrade. Here, this is an attack speed anomaly. I don't really care. Calling card. Get an emblem that matches a non-unique trait, and I use it on Cassiopeia. Cassiopeia is Dominator Black Rose. If I hit a Black Rose emblem, so now I have 2 Black Rose emblems, so I can max out the Black Rose trait, which is maxed out at 7. So that's really broken. But yeah, GG, I guess. I have the Morgana here. So as you can see, he turns into a 4-star Sion. The way Sion works now is that when he dies, he also revives and does a shit ton of damage. Right, he gets like a damage buff when that happens. Now, if I didn't hit Black Rose emblem, I hit a Dominator emblem, on level 9, you can fit 5 Black Rose, 6 Dominator. As long as you have an emblem of each. So the emblem anomaly, especially with how little gold I had, was extremely high roll. If I didn't hit the emblem anomaly, I would have taken something to upgrade Mundo. As you can see, I'm still rolling really aggressively here. The reason I'm rolling so aggressively, I could technically stop now because I'm at 7 Black Rose. We'll see how broken it is. It basically needs 2 spats, so it's really, really strong. But because I'm paired on all of these units, that's why I'm rolling. Right, as you can see, I'm paired on Elise, I'm paired on Silco, I'm paired on Mundo, and I'm 2 off of this. It's like, I'm just rolling to 0 because as soon as I upgrade one of them, then I feel like I'm stable. There's no need to greed when you're like 1 off of everything because your rolls are very efficient. You're rolling for many different things at once, so it makes sense to roll to just make sure that you're really strong. As you can see, this is the Sion, and you'll see when he dies, if he dies, yeah. Alright. So as you can see, and you can see even the Cassio is doing so much damage as a Cassio 2, so it's always itemized Cassio in these type of setups. But when Sion dies, basically just starts punching, like his I think his ult in real, or not his ult, his like passive in League or whatever. I don't play League, but I've seen Sion top like pushing, split pushing stuff. Oh, what did I do here? Oh, I'm trying to like make this smaller. I guess it just doesn't go any lower. There we go. Alright, but at 7 Black Rose, this is basically just going to be me waiting to win the game now. It's pretty much like just over now. It's just good. We're good to go. Black Rose is already a really strong trait, and then hitting the vertical Black Rose so that the Sion doesn't die, I basically have no more problems. Here, I just put the upgrade on the Silco, so now I have so I upgraded my item to make it anti-heal, right? So now I have full utility. I have the spark on the Elise, and then I have anti-heal here. And then I upgrade to Silco 2. That's fine. I'm down to play Silco because I'm probably just gonna stick with these Dominators. And I make it to Cassio 3. This is why I like to play around Dominators with this setup. I feel like, you know, if you look at this setup, I know that I'm 5 Black Rose right now, but if you remove these 2 emblems, I would still be 5 Black Rose. I can roll really deep. I can upgrade a lot of units, and in the worst case, I can go for Casio 3, which a lot of people don't do, and that's like fine, right? Because if you're stuck on level 8, which happens sometimes if you just don't find your upgrades. As you can see, I just don't have an upgraded frontline unit, and it took me all that gold, and I'm uncontested on Silco, and it took me all that time just to find this Silco. So it's a little bit awkward sometimes, but that's why I like playing around the Dominator variation. But obviously that's a me thing. That's something that I enjoy doing. The higher cap versions are definitely to play around Heimer or to play around Malzahar. For late game, there's other options that you can play around where you play like with Elise backline and Scrap, like Scrap and Black Rose. Anyways, without much ado, this is the game. GG, I guess. Ooh, I think I saw somebody. Oh, I'm holding on to Vi's because the guy looks like he's holding a bunch of extra Vi's. Oh, and I missed the Mundo in my shop. That's so funny. Because I was too busy scouting. I would have had Mundo 2 this turn. Yeah. LeBlanc, by the way, is the 5 cost for Black Rose. She's kind of weird. She does this thing. She chains up enemies, and then based on how much damage they take, she then, like, does an extra, like, attack after that, like, kills them or whatever. But basically, it's not like LeBlanc's damage. It's mostly like the rest of your team's damage that LeBlanc capitalizes off of. So it's a really interesting idea. I feel like just itemizing and playing around LeBlanc sometimes is really awkward if you don't have a rest of your team that does a bunch of damage already. But here I have my upgraded Dr. Mundo. I could move the Black Rose onto Mundo, but I don't think it really matters all that much. I could move these items onto Mundo as well, but because I have so much tankiness with Sion, I'm just down to just greed and hold on to my removers. We don't know. Late game, I might switch out of these into 5 costs, right? A lot of times, like, this is a board that can get you to level 9 because you're uncontested on the Silco and the Mundo. But once you're level 9, obviously, if you hit, like, multiple 5 costs upgraded, then you can just swap them out, right? Like, you can swap out for Jaces, and you can swap out for other units that are a little bit better. As you can see, this is the Sion that revives and he starts punching. So it's basically like almost unbeatable. As you can see, it was getting pretty close, but the Sion still didn't die, right? I haven't had a situation where the Sion dies with 7 Black Rose. I'm also not fully upgraded. I still have lots of room to cap my board out a lot higher. Anyways, this is just showing vertical Black Rose and the Black Rose trait. We're just gonna, like I said, we're just riding it out. Like, I don't think anybody can beat me unless they hit like another vertical trait that's really powerful. But until then, we're just gonna, like, you know, watch through all these fights. I'll try and say some insights about other people's boards. Like I said, I just picked this one because it was really funny and really high roll for the first video, like the first VOD review of the set. Because I have so much frontline, I could also backline Elise. I just don't really have that many Elise items. In this type of situation, a lot of times you never really upgrade this Elise, and that's what makes things really difficult for you. But if you're in a spot like mine, where I'm winning the game already, it could be a good idea late game to transfer your items from your Silco to your Elise. You can put Elise in the backline and basically just put the Silco items on the Elise. The Elise will definitely do more damage, especially with the Black Rose trait, that she gets the bonus damage, and you can put triple items on her. So a lot of times when you're playing Black Rose, just know that Elise in backline, even though she's like a bruiser and really has good util frontline, because you have so much frontline with the Sion, you're good enough to put the Elise in the backline a lot of the time. The other player is playing Kog'Maw reroll. Kog'Maw reroll is kind of weird. I feel like now, when it first launched, people were like thought that it was really bad, myself included, because he got like giga nerfed from PBE. Thank God they nerfed it, because the comp is still ridiculously strong, and they like giga nerfed it. Like, you know, it was almost like a Syndra situation from last set. Thank God they nerfed that. I just wish they nerfed form swappers a bit. I still feel like Gangplank, Swain, Elise are like big offenders this patch, but they didn't think it needed to be changed. But hopefully, like in 2 weeks or whatever, they'll make those units a little bit weaker. I would have liked to see Elise and like the other form swappers weaker, because then I could have shaped my opinion a little bit better on how strong Black Rose is. Right now, obviously, it's 7 black rows. I'm just going to win the game for free. But a lot of times you win just as hard with 5 black rows. It's just like, it's hard to tell how much is Elise and how much is the trait, right? It's obviously a mixture of both. Like, the trait is really strong and Elise is really strong. But I would have liked if they at least nerfed the form swappers a good chunk so that it's a little bit easier to tell which one's which, like where the problem is. Because it kind of makes me worried that, like, you know, they'll address, like, you know, they'll nerf Elise, but then not nerf the trait that hard, and then it'll still be really broken next patch. So we'll see how it plays out. Anyways, I'm probably just gonna level to go for multiple Dominators. If I make it to level 10, I can fit in 6 Dominator. Because now, like, you know, it's not like I have 1 Black Rose emblem, because I have 2 Black Rose emblems. I'm always going to be playing 7 Black Rose. So when I level, I'm either going to level for a Bruiser, which just gives my whole team a little bit of HP. I'm going to level for a Form Swapper, or I'm going to level for a Watcher. Just some sort of extra unit to kind of synergize with the rest of my board. Here... I mean, all of these are kind of like whatever, I guess. Okay, I put blue buff on him. That's fine. And then dominate. Yeah, there we go. And I'll just put red buff on, LeBlanc. So I just want to have mana on Silco so that he casts a little bit. Other thing to know is that I have Elise 3, by the way. I was just holding on to this Elise. I leveled to 9 here because I found a Bruiser in my shop. Nami as an emissary gives mana, but I don't think I need the extra mana right now because it seems like my board is strong enough as is. So I just put in Bruiser just to juice on my board just a little bit more. Because I have so many frontline items, I'm down to just keep Elise in the front line. I don't think I'll have damage issues. But yeah, Cassio 3 is going to do an insane amount of damage. Silco with the Black Rose emblems, does a lot of damage, especially because we hit that Black Rose 5 threshold, so he gets the bonus damage amp. So as you can see, like, Cassio is going to do a bunch, Silco is going to do like close to that, but it's still fine. A lot of these fights are also ending really fast. Dominators really scale up the longer the fight goes on. That's why it works really well with Black Rose. That's the summon trait. You run into a good situation when you have like an unkillable frontline unit. And a lot of times if you stack Mundo, the whole point about Mundo is that he just keeps healing and he has a bunch of HP. So it's really hard to deal with Mundo. He doesn't do that much in terms of like damage and all that other stuff. He's just like a Giga Tank. So having Mundo in the front line, really fits in nicely with the Dominator trait because he starts off with a health shield and then he just like is hard to die or hard to kill. It's hard for him to die. Here I put in the Nami. I'm just looking at my matchups. I'm trying to think like which one do I want to try and do more damage, because this one has the powder and the jinx and it's this is a powder 4. I'm scared that the powder is gonna like kill my backline units too fast, so I want to make sure that they ramp up a little bit faster. See, the Jinx Rocket and the Powder Monkey, they have like an AoE effect, so I wasn't sure how it's gonna play out. Bruiser is pretty good just to like make sure that my front line lives, but I'm assuming my Sion is gonna be able to tank both the Jinx and the Powder. So I'd rather just have the mana scaling from the Nami in some of these fights just to make sure that I get enough cast off, so I'm doing enough damage to chew through the front line. Especially since I have the Elise in the front line. If I had Elise in the back line, then I don't think Nami is super necessary. Elise with triple items is going to do so much extra damage that usually just steamroll everybody. You don't even need Dominators because the board's dead before Dominators even start to do that much damage. But yeah, this is a Powder 4. There's like this family, there's this trait. I think they got Worth the Wait, right? So it gives you a 1 cost every single turn, and because the game has gone on long enough, they made it to stage 6 and they got their Powder 4. You see how my backline died? That's what I was worried about, right? I'm worried about my team wiping. The Sion should be able to carry here. It's kind of unfortunate for that guy that I just got really lucky and I hit 7 Black Rose. But, you know, in my ranked climb right now, this is probably the only lucky game I feel like I've had. Every other game has been miserable for the most part. So, you know, it is what it is. And yeah, last fight of the game. Hopefully your games go this well. You know, this was one of the craziest games I had. And you know, we'll be back to like more normal VOD reviews tomorrow. I'm just gonna go through like regular comps and my decision making and what I did right, what I did wrong. There's not much to learn from here. There's not much to do about any of this. It's just like, yeah, you know, just vertical Black Rose, you know. It is what it is. I took the Thieves Gloves. I checked what the Thieves Gloves items are. They look like good backline items, so I just put them on LeBlanc. I didn't roll that aggressively here. You know, whatever. Who cares? But typically you can switch out Blitzcrank for Mordekaiser too. Put items on him and it's really strong. I moved my anti-heal up because I just like, whatever. I'll just put an item on Mundo. And yeah, this fight didn't go as bad for some reason. So I don't know what he did to his board. But yeah, we just kind of steamrolled. And yeah, seven Black Rose. So that's like my little high roll thing. Silver because I just started out. This was yesterday. I'm in gold now, trying to do my early ranked climb. But yeah, that was it. I had the Dominator trait, so all my units were getting a little bit of a shield. But it ended up that I just hit 2 Black Rose emblems. Of course, if you don't hit 2 Black Rose emblems, you don't need Black Rose emblems. Even if you have a Dominator emblem, you could just play like the other variations that I was talking about, where you just play 6 Black Rose, 6 Dominator. You can fit it on level 9. Or sorry, 6 Black Rose, 5 Dominator. You can fit on level 9. So that's really cool. But anyways, thank you for watching. And you know, enjoy. Have fun. Bye-bye.